basic techniques, understanding data densification. In this lesson, we are going to go through the basics of data densification and how we can draw in Tableau. Once we start understanding the basics, we can then start planning out our template. So let's open up Tableau and let's go through some of these core concepts. So with Tableau desktop open, we can start to get to work, but I want to ask a fundamental question, and I do ask this question in all of my introductory lectures on data densification, is what can you do with two rows of data? And you could plot them, absolutely, but can you actually expand that data? So what I want to do is open up any spreadsheet editor or any text pad, and I want you to just create the following: a simple column, path, two rows of data. I want us to select and copy this. So Control C, Command C. Let's go into Tableau and let's paste it into Tableau. So we have a very simple data set. We essentially, it sums up to 360. There are two records. Let's rename this to two rows. So there's not much we can do with this. We can turn this into a discrete potentially. Let's turn it into a dimension. Again, there's not much we can do. However, let's try some interesting data densification techniques and let's really drive this concept. If you're familiar with this, feel free to skip. Otherwise, I hope you have fun. Firstly, what I want us to do is right click on path and create a bin object. For us, I want us to make the size of the bin 10. Leave it as path bin. The name doesn't really matter too much. Let's click OK. So you can see we have this histogram icon here. Let's drag this into rows now. And let's take the path and drop it into text. And actually, let's just leave it as a sum just for fun. And as you can see, we've created a lot of different buckets, and you can see because we have two records, one which is 0 and one which is 360, those appear in the buckets. Nice and simple. However, we have created the appearance of additional rows. So what I want us to do now is create a new calculated field. Let's call it index, and let's just put the index table calculation. Now the index table calculation does a calculation on what you can see on the table in front of you. So let's use index and let's drag that onto text. Let's remove path. Interesting enough, you now have values. Now, does the value mean anything? Not really. However, can we use these values? Probably. So let us take index and drop it into columns. As you can see, we're starting to draw stuff. That's actually quite exciting. Let's take path and drop it into details. And let's turn this into circles. So because the path bin is in details, it means that it's there but it's not really being used. As with table calculations, let's right click on the index, compute using, and let's make the index function compute, i.e. create the index based on path. Now that's interesting. So we have two rows of data and we were able to create a lot more points. That's fascinating. So what else can we do with this? Well, let's change the bucket size. Let's change it to 1. Now you can see we've drawn a line. That's very interesting. How about we have the index, which is here. How about we create a rows as well? So let's call this rows, and let's use the following. We're going to use the sine function to create a sine curve. We're going to treat the 0 to 360 as degrees. And let's click apply. Let's take that onto rows. So the key here is that we've taken our index, which is just 1 to 360, because we've created a series of buckets or bins based on the 0 to 360 in our data set with an increment of 1. That's the bucket size. And then we've used the index function to actually say, okay, just count the bucket number, count the position, the index. With that index, we could use it in a calculation, and now we can draw the following. Let's make this type line. Now you can see we have a very smooth curve. Index starts at 1, so let's make it start at 0. And now we have a perfect sine curve. How about we create another calculated field and call it columns? Instead of sine, we're going to use cos, radians, because you need to convert degrees, 0 to 360 degrees, into radians. Let's click OK. Let's drop columns here. It looks like a circle, it acts like a circle, but it's not quite. So let's go to columns, and because we're drawing lines, let's take the path bin and drop that into path. Now we have a perfect circle. This is how we can draw in Tableau. To have more fun, what we can do is turn this into a polygon. Now we actually have a field shape. Now this is the basics of drawing in Tableau, is that you have relatively few records, or 2. You can then create buckets for them. Use a table calculation to create more dense information, more points to play with, and then you could put those points into functions and then draw stuff. So if you think about our data visualization for items, it would be simply a straight line. For the curve, we would apply some form of function and some mathematics to say start point, end point, draw the curve in between. Is it going upwards? Is it curving downwards? We can actually do that. So this is the basics of data densification and drawing. I hope you found this interesting. I do have a whole course based on just this concept, but the main thing is I want you to understand the basics. Once we have this, we just need to make sure we appreciate this in our template. So I hope you enjoyed this, and see you in the next lesson.